A heartbreaker on the road. We'll take a look back at the game at Kent State, look at some defensive changes on the horizon, and break down this weekend's game at the Battle of the Bronze Stalk. Third Down Chirp starts right now.
Ball State Sports Link's Third Down Chirp is delivered by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. Visit papajohns.com today for more info.
Hello and welcome into this week's episode of Third Down Chirp, delivered by Papa John's. I'm your host, Chris Renkel, joined as always, Pat Boylan and Timmy Fogarty. And, you know, with the past 2 weeks being the way they were, you kind of got a sense Ball State's luck was going to run out, but the loss stings all the same.
It was a bit of a role reversal. Ball State comes up with the late comeback and then only to be trumped by a final comeback by Kent State in this case. But yeah, a tough loss, but one they've got to get over very quickly.
Well, guys, this Cardinals defense has just given up too many big plays through the air, and then finally Saturday you see it on the road in the MAC. You can't give up that many yards passing, and it came back to bite them.
And it wasn't fun, the final outcome for Ball State fans, but it was a fun game to watch on a beautiful day in Kent, Ohio. Ball State trying to go 3 wins in a row, but it was Kent who would find the end zone first. Spencer Keith, he's going to find Dree Archer wide open, one of Archer's many touchdowns on the game. And then Keith later on in the second, he's going to find, this time it's Matthew Hurdle wide open behind the secondary, another touchdown for Kent State. But Ball State would start to chug away on offense. Keith Wenning, he's going to find Willie Snead in the corner of the end zone.
And this would be just the start of a humongous day for the Cardinals sophomore wide receiver.
Spencer Keith in the third quarter, he's going to find Dree Archer again. This guy was just flying all over the field. And then Traylon Durham from 1 yard out. The running game and the passing game going well for the Flashes, but the Cardinals through the air just could not be stopped.
There was just no answer for Willie Snead all day. Right there, getting his feet in, making just a great play.
And in the fourth quarter, the Cardinals need a stop. Spencer Keith, pass tipped up. Who's going to get it? It's Brandon Newman, the big defensive tackle transfer, his first career interception. Ball State trying to take the lead. Wenning, he's going to find Connor Ryan. 5 touchdowns on the day for Keith Wenning. Kent State now trailing for the first time in the fourth quarter. Spencer Keith almost picked off by Jeff Garrett, one of 3 dropped interceptions on the final drive. But 4th and 10, Keith, he's going to find Hurdle again for the first down, in the Ball State defense, they needed to stop. They just could not get it. Cortez knocks one through. Ball State still has a few seconds left to throw one up in the end zone, but Keith Wenning's not even going to come close on this one as the Cardinals fall. A hard-fought effort by the offense, but in the end, the Golden Flashes prevail. And when it's all said and done, Ball State falls to Kent State 45-43, but offensively, probably as good as we've seen the Cardinals.
We've seen Keith Wenning play so many tremendous games throughout his career so far. This one, he was locked in like none other.
Well, and Willie Snead this game, absolutely tremendous day for him. 14 catches and 2 scores through the air. It just seems every week he trumps himself on something he did the week before.
And really, for player of the game honors, you could give it to the entire offensive side of the ball, clicking on all cylinders. But if you had to give it to one person, Timmy, who would you give it to?
Well, I'm going to go with the obvious choice here. I'm going to go with Keith Wenning. I mean, just a tremendous day for him all across the board. 32 of 43, 445 yards, and 5 touchdowns. All of those categories career highs, and the most important stat, guys, 0 interceptions. He just looked so poised all day, really in control of the offense just throughout the entire game.
Wenning was in control, but another guy that was in control was Willie Snead. How about him coming out of the wide receiving corps? Over 200 yards receiving for Willie, 14 catches, another tremendous day for this kid. And without him, Keith Wenning doesn't have the day that he has, was consistently beating his corner deep. And I really think we're starting to see a rising star in the making at the wide receiving corps. And the best part for Ball State, this kid's just a sophomore.
After the game, we caught up with Coach Lembo and Keith Wenning.
I didn't think we played great from start to finish. That's on me. I got to do a better job of getting these guys ready and making sure we get off to a better start. Every possession counts, and against a really good defense like this, not coming away with points on that first possession really hurt us. And it was one of those pieces of the game that, just knowing what we were up against today, that you just knew was going to come back to haunt us. some of our best guys didn't play their best today, and you know, I got to get them ready to do that every week.
Offensively, we can't go 3 and out. You know, we can't go 3 out in the beginning and then expect to, you know, make game-winning drives at the end. You know, it doesn't happen every week. You know, I almost did this week, but, you know, maybe we can learn from this, watch the film tomorrow, and then come out next week and put it on Northern. We got to move on. You know, this isn't a game that really going to hurt us. You know, this is an East team. You know, next week is the West team, Northern, and, you know, we just got a little revenge for that team. You know, they beat us last year in a close game, so we just got to go out there and make plays next week and then put this one behind us so we can, you know, get one step closer to the MAC championship.
He's a great receiver. There's other great receivers too, but, you know, I'm going to give the ball to who I think has the best matchup and who I think's open, so it doesn't really matter who it is as long as they're open. We're going out there trying to score every time. There's not times that we go out there as an offense and say, let's not score, so our goal is to go out there and score. It's really disappointing. You know, we needed this win to prove to us that, you know, we're not going to get too hyped over just one win, that we're going to be able to move on, but, you know, we never got the job done. But we need to come out and learn from this and come out next week and play better.
The first weekend of Mid-American Conference play marked by an offensive explosion as we take a look around the rest of the conference, presented by Fox College Sports. Starting in the MAC East, Miami, Ohio over Akron, 56-49. Zach Dysert had a career game.
500 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. The first player to ever do that in the FBS for Zach Dysert in a game that was very similar to Ball State's.
Ohio getting tested on the road, 37-34, just squeaks one out against UMass.
Yeah, OU really struggled the entire game against a, you know, struggling UMass team, but somehow the Bobcats pulled out at the end.
In the MAC West, the team we see this weekend, Northern Illinois trouncing Central Michigan 55-24.
Is there anyone more inconsistent than the Chips? I mean, they go and beat Iowa and then come and lose by 31 to Northern Illinois.
And Toledo gets one over Western Michigan 37-17. The Broncos without starting quarterback Alex Carter.
And it really shows here how important Alex Carter is. You know, they play Toledo and just get trounced.
And the MAC standings after all the points were scored, Ball State falls to third in the MAC West, 3-2 overall, 1-1 in conference.
And Chris, it just shows you how scary good this MAC West side is. I mean, Ball State drops just one game and all of a sudden they're looking like they're mid-town.
And now, heading into this Northern game this weekend, if there was one team you wanted to play after an emotional loss, it's the Northern Illinois Huskies, because I can guarantee you every player in that locker room remembers what the Huskies did to Ball State on the road in DeKalb last year, and what a game it was. Back and forth scoring. Cardinals led most of the way, but in the end, the Huskies were able to edge them out.
Yeah, Ball State's had its fair share of tough losses in our 4 years here, but this one, there was nothing tougher than this one. I mean, you led Northern Illinois, who won the MAC last year, by 14 points, 3 separate times in DeKalb. I mean, just a magnificently coached game by Coach Lembo. I think the best I've seen from a Cardinal coach since we've been here. And they have a pick 6, and it looks like you've sealed the football game with it. A questionable pass interference, or rather a questionable roughing the passer call comes with it, and then you give up a field goal late in the game. And to top it all off, the Northern Illinois fireworks guys set off the fireworks before the game is even over. I mean, this one is as tough could get.
Well, and the thing, guys, that kept Ball State really in this game was just big play after big play, and that's something you haven't really seen so far this year from the Ball State defense. So hopefully Saturday, you know, they're able to create big plays. I mean, last year, the Northern Illinois offense was one of the best in the MAC with Chandler Harnish, who's now in the NFL. They were able to disrupt some stuff that he did, you know, really get him thinking about some things in the secondary. And Pat, like you said, an interception late in the game with, you know, called back from a roughing the passer call. So big play after big play kept them in it. Just at the end, the Huskies were just too much to handle.
After practice this week, we caught up with Keith Wenning and company to talk about this weekend's matchup against the Huskies.
You know, I think it's just trying to be consistent with last week. You know, we did a lot of good things against Kent. You know, it's just about coming out Saturday and trying to be consistent and do the small things with technique and, you know, making plays. You know, their secondary and defensive line can fly. You know, they've gotten to the quarterback a lot. That's a challenge for our offensive linemen. And, you know, their secondary and corners are really good and fly around to the ball. It's definitely a great feeling having them up front and knowing that they're going to, you know, get the job done. You know, it gives me plenty of time to see the field. It gives the running backs plenty of room to run. So it's a great feeling having them in front of you.
They're real fast on defense. You know, they're strong guys. They get to the ball like Kent State. But, you know, I feel like if we just study the film, have another great day of practice tomorrow, and, you know, just come out you know, good on offense with a great tempo, I think we could get the job done Saturday. They got good corners, you know. Number 11 is probably going to be their best corner. You know, he's long, he's 6'2", but you know, we could take. Last year we had a pretty good game against our secondary. I don't think they really lost anybody. So you know, we just got to study last year's film, study the games that they just played, and you know, I think we can, you know, do some damage.
These two teams very similar in the fact that they can put up a lot of points in a hurry, but Northern Illinois has a little bit of a defensive advantage, both teams in their second year under the respective head coaches, as we take a look closer in our head-to-head segment, starting with the quarterbacks.
Jordan Lynch, the signal caller for Northern Illinois, you know, they lose Chandler Harnish from last year, and he's been no drop down at all. Already 1,000 yards passing, and he leads the team in rushing.
Guys, the last time Keith Winning threw an interception was against Clemson. You look right here at his touchdown-interception ratio, 10 TDs and only 2 picks.
And on the ground at the running backs, 2 guys who can get yards on the ground in a hurry.
Well, Leighton Settle, not the premier back last year, so he's new to this role. They will still mix it up. You're seeing he's still trying to work things in. 75 rush yards a game. They'd like that number to be higher.
Well, the Ball State running game really has struggled the last couple weeks on the ground. Last week averaged under 3 yards a carry. Hopefully this week they can get back to their normal ways.
At the wide receiver position, how about Willie Snead coming into this game red hot, back-to-back big-time performances?
And on the other side for Northern Illinois, Perez Ashford, this is their version of Dree Archer. Very fast. If you don't know where he is 100% of the time, he'll beat you.
Willie Snead every week just makes play after play, and he has kind of that clutch gene, if you will. 4 receiving TDs this year, and just announced he's on the watch list for the Bolitnikoff Award.
On the defensive side of the ball, it's been the problem for Ball State the past couple weeks, but Northern Illinois, they call it a strength.
And if you're Ball State, though, 4.5 rushing yards a game, that's not too bad. It's the pass defense that's been the problem.
The pass defense has been atrocious, and then you look at the opponent red zone percentage. Opponents have scored 100% of the time when they get into the Ball State defensive red zone. So, guys, you're not going to win many football games if that keeps it up.
And after several weeks of defensive struggles, we were wondering if they're going to make some sort of a change, and it looks like Ball State is going with a little bit of a change with their defensive scheme. They're going from their base defense to more of a nickel as we take a look at what that's going to look like. Basically, they take out a linebacker and they bring in Armand Dehaney or Quentin Cooper at the cornerback position.
And in terms of a defense, this is nothing new. You saw Ball State run this a lot this year, and they ran it a lot against Kent last week. But what they're saying is they want to put even more emphasis on it, and this defense can help out against the pass, which Ball State has struggled immensely against.
Yeah, taking out that one linebacker and then putting in a corner is really, I think, going to help this defense, Pat. And you mentioned it a little bit, how it's not really changing up a lot. They ran it about 60% of the time against Kent State, but the defensive line's getting enough pressure on quarterbacks, and the linebackers are doing a good enough job against the run. Coach Bateman and his staff feel confident about putting that extra guy in the secondary.
After practice, we talked to Brandon Newman about this change on defense.
When I see guys like Eric Patterson and Brian Jones make big plays like that when we needed them and defense needed to step up earlier in the season, I just wanted to be that guy deeply. And when I saw that pass get tipped for the second time, I just figured I had to go and get it. And I want to be one of those guys that the team can really depend on to make a big play when it needs it. So that was my first opportunity too, and I'm glad I capitalized on it. Well, you know, we got to play faster and get to the quarterback quicker and really put pressure on it so our DBs really can cover for a short amount of time, and the same for the linebackers in coverage, or if they're blitzing, we have to make sure we're playing the pass as well as we're playing the run, and it's more so of a speed thing. They're not going to pound the ball, and it's as physical as Kent State does, so it's a different mindset. He's going to make you miss a couple times, and you have to really wrap up and really hope that everyone's going to come and gang tackle. Even if I'm the first guy there and I make a miss, I have to count on the rest of the guys to clean up that, just to slow them down. That split second will take a yard off the ball. So you just really got to focus on tackling.
And of course, we're going to have to wait until Saturday to see if the defensive changes help at all the struggling secondary. And under players to watch, offensively, a lot of guys to watch. Defensively, you're looking for some guys to improve. But who's your player to watch this week?
My player to watch is Juwan Edwards. And I think for the first time, really, and maybe ever, we saw Juwan Edwards kind of shut down last week. Under 3 yards per carry. He was not a big part of the offense. And, you know, I think we're looking for him to turn things around this week. And you don't necessarily have to say that the running game has to be going for Keith Wenning to operate, because he had his best day when the running game wasn't going last week. But when this attack is balanced, it's a much stronger unit and much, much tougher to defend.
Well, Pat, I'm going to go with guys on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go with Armand Dehaney and Quentin Cooper. You know, they announced this week that they're going from their base defense, switching to a nickel defense, which just means they're adding an extra guy in the secondary, and they need to. It's a team that's given up 317 yards yards a game through the air. Last week against a quarterback who had 0 passing touchdowns on the season, they gave up 3 through the air and 300 yards. So the defensive line is getting enough pressure, and they're stopping the run enough to where they can afford to add that extra guy into the secondary.
Now, not much to improve offensively. The defense leaves a lot to be desired. Who's your player to improve?
You still want to pick the whole defensive backfield as a group, but I'll go with Eric Patterson if I had to pick someone. He had a couple chances at interceptions to end that football game against Kent on that final drive and couldn't make them. Now, Jeffrey Garrett had him too, but the whole defensive backfield has to get better, and hopefully the switch to the nickel will help with that. But here's an interesting stat, at least in the fact that Ball State's defense by no means has played well this year. But when they played at home, they played a lot better. 26 points and 27 points allowed in their 2 games. With Ball State's offense, you can win allowing 26 and 27 points. I think if they can allow, just that total, mid-20s to Northern Illinois, I think they'll be fine.
I'm going to go with their defensive captain, the middle linebacker Travis Freeman. And Freeman himself has had a just tremendous start to the year, leads the team in tackles. But I think he just needs to get his team more together, really get this defense. It's at a very vulnerable state, this defense is right now. Really struggled the last couple weeks through the air, so he just needs to rally his troops, get these guys flying to the ball, get 4 or 5 guys at every single tackle, and really just get up the intensity. And I think that's something that Freeman really brings to the table. You ask anybody that knows him, one thing about him is he's a very intense guy.
Ball State trying to win the Bronze Stalk Trophy for the first time since 2008. Pat, what are the keys to the game to bring that trophy home?
Well, my key to the game is going to be the offensive line play if you're Ball State. And look, you just have to go back to the Kent State game. They gave Keith plenty of time to throw, and Keith talked about it earlier here in the show. When he's got time to throw the football, he can do his thing. He'll pick you apart. He won't say, I will. He'll pick you apart if he has time to throw the football. And run blocking is something that kind of went away a little bit. Now, obviously, Kent State is probably the top MAC team in stopping the run, but the run blocking has to get better. But I think if they give Keith time to throw, once again, and the run blocking can get better, this Northern Illinois defense is good, but it's still a MAC defense, and it's still one that Ball State did very good against last year, and last year's defense was probably better than this year's.
Guys, something in the MAC that's important week in and week out, turnovers. It's something that this Ball State team has struggled with this year. Only 3 interceptions on the season. One of them is by a defensive tackle. So that kind of tells you just the Cardinals not really able to force turnovers so far this season. So I think the biggest thing is that Lynch coming in, a first-year starter for him, a guy who's thrown 3 interceptions already on the season. So he is vulnerable to throw those picks and everything. So I think they need to get pressure on him. Adding that extra guy into the secondary could help, and turnovers are the #1 key to the game for me.
It helps that they're going to be at home, and Ball State has played very well at home this year. It's now time for our What's Chirping question of the week. Remember to tweet a question at Third Down Chirp or hashtag #TweetPete. If we answer it on air, you get a free pizza courtesy of Papa John's. Our question this week comes from at @hands_NikeMan. How important will special teams be this weekend? It was really the killer last weekend against Kent State, and as Coach Lembo has said previously, it's really been their ace in the hole since his staff has been here.
Well, whenever you talk to Coach Lembo, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes of talking to him about his team before he brings up the special teams. It's a very, very big deal for Coach Lembo and his coaching staff. And for the first time, you've only seen 2 or 3 times under the Coach Lembo era that Ball State has really lost the special teams battle, and they did last week. Shot miss an extra point and a field goal. They let a kickoff return go for a touchdown, and these were the top 2 statistical special teams units in the MAC, at least according to the way that Ball State grades special teams. So it's going to be absolutely huge. And Timmy, you don't have to look much further than last year. Cavanda has a long punt return, or a fake punt, I should say, and has a 70-plus yard punt, and that was one of the reasons that the Cardinals hung in it.
Well, and this is a Cardinal team, too, that special teams really kind of carries this team. Cavanda's able to put the defense in such good situations the whole time. He's had 21 punts this year. 16 of those have been inside the 20, so just a remarkable stat for him. And then at home, Steven Schott, guys, has just been on fire. So to have the type of, those guys that can make plays for you, and in the MAC, there's a lot of games that come down to last-second field goals and field possession. So to have a guy like Steven Schott in your corner, to be able to hit those 50-yarders, hit those long kicks and everything from the hash marks is just a huge advantage.
As Pat said after the IU game, ice in his veins. Steven Schott, you got to feel good if he's coming down with a last-second field goal. Thank you for your question at hands_NikeMan. We're going to get you a free pizza courtesy of Papa John's. And for those of you who didn't get your question picked this week, remember to tweet at us at Third Down Chirp or hashtag #TweetPete for another chance to win next week. All right, guys, prediction time. Ball State really could use a big win this weekend at home against a rival Northern Illinois. Pat, What's your prediction?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of points scored in this game, and that's maybe a bit of an obvious statement, but that's just the way the MAC goes, especially this time of the year. I'm going to say Ball State 38-31, and here's why. I think the Cardinal offense is rolling like it hasn't been rolling since the Nate Davis days. I mean, 31 points against South Florida. Let's go back last week. Florida State only scored 30 against South Florida, so the offense is absolutely clicking, and then obviously 43 points last week shows that as well. So I think 38 points at least is very doable, and if you're the defense, you know, obviously they're not to the point where they want to be, but I think 31, I'm going 38-31, Ball State with the win. I think if they can hold them to 31 personally, I know that sounds wild, but I think if they can hold them to 31, that's going to be enough.
Well, and it's no secret, like the offense can score a lot of points, but I think this week the defense is really going to come out with some fire underneath them. And like I said, my player to improve, Travis Freeman, I think he's going to get these guys ready, sit down and say, hey, we know that we're good. We know that we can make plays. Let's go show the rest of the MAC who thinks that, quite frankly, the defense is a joke almost. That's just the perception that people are getting. Then those guys don't like that. They're going to come out with a fire underneath them. And I think with the way this offense scores, it's just hard to count them out of any game ever. So I'm going to go Ball State 31, Northern Illinois 27. I think it's a close game, but I think at the end, kind of like South Florida, this is a defense that can force some turnovers towards the end of the game.
Should be a great game. 3 o'clock on Saturday is the official kickoff time. If you can make it to the game, or even if you can't, be sure to listen to us on SportsLink Radio 91.3 WCRD for Pat, Timmy, and I bringing you the play-by-play action. And that's going to wrap up this week's edition of Third Down Chirp. Remember to catch us on Fox College Sports, locally in Muncie on WIPB-TV, and across the state of Indiana on Comcast Indiana. Remember, for the latest Ball State news and stories, be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Just search Ball State SportsLink. So, for all of us here at SportsLink, Pat Boylan and Timmy Fogarty, hopefully next week we're talking about the Bronze Stock Trophy being back home in Schumann Stadium. Until next week, go Cardinals. We'll see ya.
Last week against a guy who had no passing touchdowns on the season, they gave up 3 touchdowns.
That sounds better on Pat, though.
Do you want to just go straight to Timmy on that? Okay.
Can you start off with the number here? Like you normally do.
What is it?
Oh,
Hurry up! Hurry up!
Fast. What's your recipe fast?
Rex on Rex.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that
That's
little
what fixed
thing?
it, Pat.
Yeah. Jeez.
Okay, here we go, boys.
Okay.